Thanks for tuning in to the Reale Deal Show, brought to you by eBodyboarding.com and Tribe Boards.
All right, so we want to get you back home for we got lasagna cooking. I don't know what Mama's got cooking.
Yeah,
you might want to get a little hit here.
My favorite pizza on the planet is Lido pizza.
Oh yeah, that was my first pizza ever in 1955 when I was 6 years old. Lido's opened in Adelphi, right down from University of Maryland. My dad was going to Maryland. Had my first square pizza.
Yeah, it's a Washington D.C. thing, and there was a
you're a Rockville guy, so
but there was a place called Pizza Oven that made pizza that's just like
Lido's crispy pizza,
and it tastes the same.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Same kind of sauce. Maybe they pirated it.
I don't know. It could be, because I went to that place in the early 70s.
Where's that, in Rockville? Or?
Yeah, there was a couple locations in Rockville. So I got a taste for it, and then when we moved here, I thought, oh, I'm never going to have that
and again. Lido's came
and
here.
then Lido's, and I tried it. I was like, this is exactly the same.
Yeah,
it tasted
Very
maybe
nice.
it's the same people.
Yeah, who knows?
Okay, so we're going to get rocking here. So you ready?
I'm ready.
I'll introduce you. It's just a conversation.
Yeah, I know. I've done this kind of stuff before.
How's it going, folks? Jay Reale back at you here with another episode of the Reale Deal Show. And this is a very special episode for me because I met this man some 43 years ago.
Holy
back in
crap, man.
1980. Do you believe that?
How old are you, dude?
I know. I'm older than dirt, man.
Yeah, well, if you're older than dirt, I'm double dirt mud. I'm the Hawaiian red dirt, bro.
So this is Jack Crosby. Jack, it's a pleasure.
Jay, my man.
Yes, and let me tell you the significance of this guy. When I moved here, and you can look back on episodes 1 and 2 of the Reale Deal Show, when I moved here in 1980 and started competing, I looked for sponsors. This guy was my very first sponsor with a shop that he owned called BB Bombers.
We were the Bomber Boys.
They were, and we're going to get into the BB Bombers story and Jack's involvement with my career and bodyboarding in general. But Jack goes way back in surfing, in the sport of surfing. Let's dive a little deeper into your life. Now, you grew up.
This is your life.
This is your life. All right, it's like the show.
Yeah.
Now, you grew up in Hagerstown, right?
Which is like 200 miles that way inland, which sucked.
Yeah, so it didn't suck until you started surfing and realized you were in the wrong place. So how did that all happen? How did you get into...
I started skateboarding in 1960, something like that. I stole my sister's skates, took them off, put them on a 2x4, and started skating in my driveway.
No way!
Oh, yeah.
Was it metal wheels?
Metal wheels, starting off and then we graduated to roller derby board, and then Hobie with clay wheels that if you hit a little stone that threw you off, but I was still having fun learning to do 360s and stuff like that. But I was sidewalk surfing. I knew I didn't want to just skateboard. I wanted to surf.
Well, let me ask you that. How did you get into sidewalk surfing in Hagerstown? Were you listening to Beach Boys songs?
Exactly, Jan and Dean, Gidget, the whole beach
the idyllic lifestyle.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a chick like Gidget, and I wanted to be the boss of
Gail.
Hagerstown.
You're the Gidget.
Yeah,
she's out there.
Is.
Jack's wife Gail is
making dinner.
Yeah,
yeah. Poor Gidget.
I don't remember Gidget ever making dinner, but
Kathy Conner might have. Yeah. We're friends on Facebook. Hi, Kathy.
Right on. So you got sucked in with the whole beach
with
surf
the whole scene, the beach culture. But it was Endless Summer, the movie.
Yes.
That hooked me like a fish. And I wanted to be Bruce Brown, basically. I wanted to travel around. I wanted to be Robert August, Mike Hinson. You know, I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world and surf. So my pops took me surfing in 1964, rented a board here in town, went out on the choppiest, crappiest day, got bounced around, just cooped out, but still fell in love with the ocean. When I was a real little kid, we would rent surf mats, blow up surf mats, and just ride waves until our titties just they were raw as anything from these nipple rash from these things. But that's how I really got into standing up on mats and that kind of trash. But I was hooked. I loved the ocean, wanted to come here. And fortunately for me, I got the opportunity. I graduated college in 72.
From what school? Frostburg?
From Towson.
Oh, Towson. So you moved a little further east.
Yeah, and then I had friends at Towson that surfed, and Steve Balgiano, Jojo Pfisterer, Timmy Kane, and Steve Balgiano and I would do this power run. We'd come over on Friday evenings, surf, hang out, camp, or crash at somebody's house. We had sponsors here. Frank Gunyon at South Moon Under, Spider Wright, and some other folks would just let us hang, and we would surf. And then on Monday morning, we would hit the waves one more time, get in my Volkswagen, and power back to Baltimore and hit the school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was.
That's classic.
Yeah.
And this is in what, the late 60s?
This is, 68, 69, 70.
So you were just right in the heyday of the surf culture at that point.
In the shortboard culture. I mean, when I started, my first board was a Dewey Weber 910 or something, because I weighed 150 pounds. I think I need a 910 instead of a 9.8.
But this is before there were shortboards, before the shortboard revolution.
There was surfboard, shorter boards. Like Nat Young had already won the world championship on Magic Sam, which is like a 9-foot board. So people were thinking smaller. But the very next, or later in that year, the very next year, I went from a 9.8 down. I had a step down, like an 8-foot board. But then my very next board was a Weber Mini Feather, which was radical 7-foot board with a pintail.
So much shorter.
Yes.
2 feet shorter than
2 feet shorter than the year before. But for me, being a little shrimpo kook, it was the perfect thing I needed. And being a skateboarder, it just kind of lended into my thinking.
Yeah.
And into more radical surfing.
Yes.
And just being influenced by movies like Evolution and seeing what other people were doing just blew my mind.
Yes, I bet.
But, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have access to a lot of things. We had Surfer Magazine and Surfing Magazine and a few others that we would get our hands on and just devour. I mean, that was like, oh man, when the magazines came, that was the best, because we could see what other people were doing. Now you can just click, 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 and you can see Mason Ho, or you can see John, see what they're doing, see all the internationals. And in a few minutes, I'm going to watch Margaret River in the replay, so I'll be able to see Gabriel Medina beat my boy Colapinto.
Well, Colapinto was his dad was my son's 2nd grade teacher.
Really?
3rd grade teacher.
Well, how come they named their son Crosby? I always tell people it's named after me. Of course, they didn't know me from Adam.
Right. That's right.
But I love Crosby Colapinto.
Yeah. So, we're stoked that San Clemente boy got second place.
We'll talk about San Clemente a little bit, too.
Yeah. So you went to Towson, you finished with a degree, and then you said, I'm moving to the beach. That's
well, no, I got, I was waitering at restaurants, and a knock comes on my door. I open the door, and these guys with black suits on, 3 of them. 3 guys at my door with black suits. I have hair down to here, all grubby, completely suntan, bleached out hair. They go, well, we're from the Board of Education. They're not the FBI anyway.
I thought you were going to
saying?
say they're the draft board or something.
No, it was the school board. And they said, are you still interested in teaching school in Worcester County? I said, am I? Of course I am.
They came to
you? They came to me.
Recruit you
What happened was one of the art teacher at the middle school got a job offer in Florida, and he bailed on him.
Oh, man.
And, of course, I had my application in all around the area, and I jumped on that like crazy. The next day, they said, can you come to Snow Hill for an interview? And I went to the barber, got a haircut, got a tie, did it up, got the job, dude.
Now, so your degree is in?
Art ed.
Right. So you then became an art teacher at what school in this area?
At Berlin Middle School.
Which is, I substitute taught at Berlin Middle School.
Yeah, and that school now is the intermediate school, but that's the building where I was.
And it's, so is it still called Berlin, but now Intermediate School?
It's Berlin Intermediate.
Got it.
Right. So that's over in Franklin Avenue. So right over here.
Yeah, so you taught art for a bunch of years.
7 years I was the art teacher there, and a bunch of stuff happened in my life, and it was time for me to move to Hawaii. So I moved to Hawaii for almost 2 years.
And lived in Haleiwa?
I lived in Haleiwa, at Haleiwa, near the Haleiwa Surf Center, right there near the break from my lanai. You could see, not with Skilby. I lived across the street from him at Fort Apache. I don't know if you know that complex. It has a wall around it. And
no.
It was kind of dregs then, but I'm sure it might not even be there anymore.
Oh, wow.
It was called Haleiwa Surf Apartments. But from my lanai, you could see the break of Haleiwa. Right out in front is walls.
Yeah.
You know, that break, not off the wall, but walls way outside, outside break. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun there. Surf Laniakea a lot, surf Rockies a lot.
Did you work when you were there?
Hell no. I took.
How did you pay your bills? And
I took all the money that I got from teaching school. They socked away money every week as my retirement. So I took all that money right there and lived off of it. And I was doing a lot of filming. I had a really nice movie camera. I did a lot of filming when it was too big. If you had to take your leash off, it was too big for me. So
that was your benchmark. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of days. If it was Waimea or a big sunset, I wasn't going out. It was pansy. I mean, I surfed sunset, but I learned my lesson. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest
you found your limits.
Thank you. That's exactly.
Yeah.
In a lot of different ways too. Hawaii was a good teaching experience. I had a lot of fun. Loved the Hawaiian culture.
Yeah.
Loved the Hawaiian people. And they learned to love me too over time.
Well, you know how it is, man. You go over there and you have to give respect. And if you give it, you hopefully get it.
And by the end, I had a couple of the bras looking after me, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
Especially at Haleiwa and at Laniakea, and I bought them beer.
That helps too. Yeah. So you lived in Hawaii. That's pretty much the dream life especially for an East Coast surfer.
Exactly.
A kid that grew up inland. I was the same. I grew up in the Washington area and moved to the beach. Yeah. And then how did this all turn into you becoming the owner of an iconic shop like BB Bombers that we'll get into the story of Bombers, but how'd you get into that?
I was jumping from shop to shop. I got some good deals from Frank Gunyon at South Moon Under. He was doing Harbor surfboards. Hey, Harbor. And Rich has passed away last summer. No, the summer before last. He was my shaper. Anyway, I kept hopping around. The people at Sunshine House took care of me. Blair and Jimmy Finnegan took care of me for a while. But then Dale Shaw offered me a job and a place on his team. That was about 75 or Sundancer. And that was one of the first shop that I ever came across bodyboards. And it was Maury Boogie's kits that we were selling. And we were selling a shit ton of the kits. Yeah. But the kits were a problem because you had to laminate them yourself.
Yeah, you had to glue them.
And guess what? If you didn't laminate them right, you know what they did? Yeah, they fell apart. So, but that was the start. And Dale went crazy on these new boards. Yep. And they worked really good. And they were so much better than riding a mat. Yeah. And that's how it started. So I was with Dale for about, he shaped a lot of my boards. I guess it was probably 75, and then I worked there 76, part-time 77. And being a school teacher, sometimes the kids would come in and see me working at the store, and I had a pretty good rep with the moms and dads, and so I could sell stuff to them. Yes. Plus, they could see me in the water. Hey, he's no cool, so he can surf pretty good. So then
you were the cool teacher at school.
Yeah, you know it.
and you taught art, which nobody hates.
And art. I wasn't married, so the girls all loved that stuff. I wasn't half bad looking, so yeah. So all the crush girls would come in and see Mr. C.
You had it going on, man.
Too much going on.
So you were doing the shop thing, and then at some point you hooked up with Mike Heyman.
Mike and I had been. She's
co-owner of the shop, right?
Well, yeah. Let's go back when I was still teaching school, and Mike's brother Russell had gotten together with Mike and told him about this movie, Mike Harrington and gosh, one of the Hurleys. It wasn't Eric. It's the
Jeff.
No, younger one. I can't remember his name. Anyway, they were making the skateboard movie, and Michael and his brother did the music. We needed original music, so they did the music, and the kids did this cute little skateboard movie. Okay, it was before Ocean Bowl and everything else.
Yeah.
And so Mike and I kind of were talking about stuff, and Mike was a shaper, and I looked at his boards, and they looked good. I mean, he just needed some kala, some money, you know. So we got later on, after I got back from Hawaii, Dale at Sundancer let me be the manager of his store, and some things had happened in my life, and my sister came to me and said, I can bankroll you for a certain amount of money. She had gotten an insurance settlement, and she helped me get a little bit of money, enough. She knew that was my dream, to have my own store.
Yeah.
So Michael and I he was going to be the shaper. I was going to, because I had worked in the industry a little bit with Dale, I had met the reps. I knew Pat O'Neill.
Yep.
I knew Gary Clayton with O'Neill. I knew the Quicksilver reps. I knew the reps for OP. I was in there. So when I started, I kind of had a foot in the door. Yep. All I needed was some dough. I didn't have enough. You can never have enough dough.
Sure.
You know how that goes.
Inventory.
Yeah.
Rent.
And at the beginning, you don't get 30 days. You have to pay everything COD or up front. Plus, I'm not the greatest businessman in the world either. So, but anyway, Michael found this store on 8th Street, the storefront.
Yep.
It was next to the paint store. It had been Atlantic Aquatech, which now is a great big building out here on Route 50. But he had outgrown the space. It was only 900 square feet.
Yeah.
Which is small for a surf shop, tiny.
Yep.
It's about as big as this room.
Yeah.
But we decided we could make a go of it. The trouble was Spider Wright and Mitch Whiteley were opening a shop at 45th Street. Frank Gunyon was going from being a surf shop to being a clothing store. Country Girl Country Britches were selling surf stuff. Dale was right down the street. I mean, we were stupid. I mean, there was no way we could make it. But
or so you thought.
Two stupid surf dudes who didn't know anything about business whatsoever. But we made a go of it, and guess what, sports fans? People liked it. And the name came from an Australian friend of ours. The original name of the shop was going to be Sea Dreams. And my Aussie friend just said, mate, you're crazy. This ain't going to make it. You gotta be killers. You gotta be stabbers. You gotta be something punk. Because punk was really starting to catch on.
Yeah.
And he goes, you gotta blow it up, mate. You gotta go for it. And he goes, be the bombers. You're the blow up bombers. You're the bitchin' bombers. You're the Bailey bitchin' bombers. And that's how it started. He says, you need a tongue roll, mate, to go with bomber. What can we be? BB Bomber. So that's how it started.
That's it.
It just kind of
a suggestion. And what year was that?
That was in '79 when all that came down.
Yep.
And then in '80, that's the first summer that we rolled with it. And we were fortunate. We had OP, we had Quicksilver, which that was a big coup.
Yes.
We had O'Neill wetsuits to start with. And
those, by the way, were the brands of that era. Everyone wore Quicksilver and OP corduroy.
Yeah, the shorter corduroys.
You couldn't keep them in stock.
Yeah, it was. And we had Sundeck, which
was a huge East Coast brand.
Yeah, it's a huge East Coast brand. That's what Kelly Slater started with.
Yes.
Him and what's his brother and
Sean Slater, and they sponsored the ESA.
Yeah.
It was a big Bill Yerkes, I think, was behind the brand.
Bill, who's like boss of Bill, you'll see him around.
Legendary East Coast surfer.
Yeah, he's just incredible. And that brand took off. Kenny Bradshaw too was with that brand at the beginning. Yeah. So
the timing was right, and you had the brand.
The timing was right. I had the opportunity. Michael and Chris Tillman were making the surfboards, and Evil Sizer turned us on to this brand in California called Nectar.
Mm-hmm.
And We brought, Gary McNabb was the shaper, and they're beautiful boards. We brought in some of his boards, and they were selling. And, you know, there's not a whole big profit margin in surfboards, so we needed another niche. And about that time is when Kransko, I guess, started making Tom's boards, or got the contract. You would know more about that than me.
Yeah, it was late 70s. Yeah. Tom sold the brand
to Kransko. And all of a sudden, there were these boards that everybody could ride, and that was the cue. We needed something that the average boy or girl, man off the street can come in, and they're not going to buy a $340, $50 surfboard, but everybody can afford to get a boogie, and everybody can boogie all day in Ocean City, whereas you're going to get blackballed at 10 o'clock if you're riding a surfboard. So just economically, it made sense for us to pump our money into boogie boarding just as much as it is to hard boarding. And when we started, and we brought you on, and like Buckwheat Thomas and Stymie Thomas and Mike Strawley and all these kids, the Brown brothers. I mean, here we are, and we could be a pace setter all of a sudden. And at first I'm going, I don't know if I want to put all this money into speed bumps, you know, because I'll just run over the dumb.
Well, that's the funny thing is here you are, a hardcore stand-up surfer, and bodyboarding there was a heavy stigma with bodyboarders
at the beginning with
surfers.
But all of a sudden we're seeing pictures of Jack Lindholm at Pipeline getting tube, drop knee. It's just like, what the shit, man? These kids are getting deep. And then I would surf with you guys and just go, these guys are getting tubed. What the? I mean, and you think about it, George Greeno was doing this crap back in the early 60s on his knees.
And knee boards,
he's still on the mats. You know, he does crazy stuff. But I mean, you can get so much deeper and get so involved with bodyboarding. I mean, stand up is great. It's been my life, but you know, bodyboarding is around here is the bomb.
Well, it's cool that you were, some guys did open their minds, I guess, to other forms of wave riding. Some didn't. Some were like hard and fast. I'm a short boarder. I hate long boarders. I hate bodyboarders.
If you're wave riding, it's here, man. It's the Stoke. You know. You know, that's what it's all about.
Agreed. And I think, it's more broadly accepted now than it was 40 years ago. But
I mean, some of the poop that you guys are doing in the air just puts surfers to shame. Are you kidding me?
Well, I feel like surfing has caught up to bodyboarding in a lot of ways. I mean, the aerial surfing that's being done now just blows my mind.
Well, I'll still watch Mike Stewart. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
He's the man.
He is.
You're the next man, but
Mike's getting ready to turn 60 in about 2 weeks, and me in about 9 months. But yeah, we're all
60.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Back to the bomber story. So you were like, I remember my thing was, I was doing well in the local Eastern Surfing Association because the district here was one of the first to offer what they called a boogie division.
Right. And that helped the whole thing, and it helped promote my store. And then we were pushing bodyboarding. I mean, people always knew we had surfboards, and we had our own surfboards. We're our own local shaper. We had some California boards. We brought in Rusty Priesendorfer boards. Then Hot Stuff, Tom Everly was doing a lot of our shaping and stuff. But bodyboarding was always consistent. We could always. The Mach 7.7, when it got off of the black bottom and into the orange bottom, it took off like a rocket ship. It's just like, you just keep on bringing them down here, and we'll keep selling.
Well,
$49.95.
Well, that was the cool thing. Is the word got around, that bombers is like friendly to bodyboarders.
Exactly.
Right. So that's why I came into your shop and asked you and Mike, hey, is there a way to get sponsored? And you kind of said, well, let's see how you do in the ESA. Here's a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And then,
well, we didn't want to say no.
No, of course you didn't, and I get that.
We didn't want to say, well, take a hike. No, it's not a nice guy. It's financial.
No, totally.
It was financial at the beginning.
Yes.
Because we can put 100 bodyboards in here and only like 25 surfboards.
Yes.
What am I going to make more money on? I'm going to make more money on the boogie board because I'm going to sell a shitload more than I am a surfboard.
And you have to, as a retailer, I am now. I get it.
It's all about, no offense, but it was all about the coin at the beginning. But all of a sudden, I'm seeing these kids just ripping. And I remember what was that kid's name from Virginia Beach that they had a shop down there that was like a bodyboard shop when we went down and had that contest. What was that?
Well, there's a few. There's Eric Anderson and Bob Hovey and
maybe
Eric Thomas and
I think that's
Gary Thomas. Sorry, there was a few really good riders.
But anyway,
some of them I still keep in touch with.
One time we went down there. You remember the time we went down there in the truck?
Yes.
And that was like a classic.
I don't know if I told that story.
We got to tell that story.
Oh, we'll tell that story. Yeah, for sure, man.
These guys from Virginia Beach kind of challenged the Ocean City boys to come down and have a contest. So, you know, being us, we're all poor, and these guys are all young. We took this pickup truck that was the bomber truck. Michael, my partner, was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and the whole back seat is full of these bodyboarder kids.
The bed of the truck. We laid in the bed of the truck.
What was it, like 8 of you back there or something crazy? So we go down to Virginia Beach, and it's kind of a cloudy, rainy day.
It's a 2.5 hour drive, mind you.
Yeah, and my boys just smoked their boys like a Cuban fucking cigar.
We beat them. Yeah, we did.
Marco Riva went out in the water and just smoked them.
Yeah.
They hadn't seen anything like Marco, and I'm going, he's not even our best rider.
Oh,
wait till Jay hits the water. Jay didn't even get a chance to surf because it started to lightning and thunder. So the pansy Virginia Beach boys just bailed on the whole thing and just said, you guys go home. But they knew that they were licked. You know, we just smoked them. So anyway, on the way home, the boys in the back, they all want to stop off at this store called Stuckey's. And if you've ever been in the South, back in the early 80s, Stuckey's was like a glorified filling station, southern filling station that sold everything. They had a little restaurant, but they had these little mini firecrackers. So I don't know who bought them, if it was Buckwheat, or his brother.
Sorry, Buckwheat, if it was you.
We're going down Route 113, and I'm hearing pop, pop, pop. So these jokers are in the back lighting up firecrackers, throwing them out the back of this truck.
Now, mind you, it's
raining like hell. Yeah, and
they were lighting them under the tarp and then chucking them at cars that were following us. It was just all kinds of wrong.
So Heyman pulls over, and everybody out of the back, who is throwing out these things. You want to be on this team, you've got to behave yourself. You're representing bombers, for Christ's sake. What's wrong with you?
He snapped.
Yeah.
That was classic.
Yeah, but that goes in the annals of bomber history.
And we did have a long-term rivalry with that Virginia Beach crew for all the years that I rode for bombers until I moved to California.
Yeah, and in the East Coast, what was the guy's name? I think he was like one of the Quicksilver reps. He wanted to beat you so bad in the East Coast. But,
well, Gary Thomas was a rival that I had from there that I competed against a lot. And there was an older guy named Brian Macon.
That's it. That's Brian.
He was a surfer, but also a very good bodyboarder.
Well, he did both. He was a good waterman.
He was.
He still is. I mean, I'm in touch with him on Facebook,
I used to hate it when he beat me because I knew he wasn't a dedicated bodyboarder. Right, he just dabbled in it.
Well, he did it just to spite you, I think.
And he was such an athlete. He was like ripped, man.
But the one I remember,
6'2".
Oh yeah, he's big. The one I remember the best is you beating Kelly Slater.
Yeah.
Kelly Slater was in. I think Kelly wanted to win every division that year.
I pointed that out many times.
Which is great.
82. Yeah, it was the ESA championships in 82, the first year they had the bodyboard division. And he went out with the intent to stand up on his bodyboard, but right before we paddled out, they came down and said you have to lay down.
Really?
Only prone riding.
Really?
If you want to ride
no
on
drop
your knees,
knee, nothing?
Enter the kneeboard division.
Really?
If you want to ride standing up, enter the surfing. And I was running to Jeff and Kathy going, what do I do?
Right.
Half my repertoire is the drop knee and stand. I used to stand up. I did it all. So I had to just prone. Yeah. Well, by then I had ditched the fins on the bottom.
I meant the flippers.
Oh yeah, the flippers. So I was able to do
flippers.
360s and Rolos, and that was. Oh, I did a headstand because I was like, they didn't
Yeah,
say I couldn't do a
that.
headstand.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Yeah, so then
You
Kelly
beat
got
him, though.
second. I got
Yeah,
first.
that's
but
good.
My claim to fame,
Yeah,
I
you
beat
beat
Kelly
the
at a
goat.
wave riding
You
competition.
beat the goat. Yeah.
Not many people can say
No,
that.
hardly anybody can say it.
43 or 40 years later, but
yeah. So that's kind of how we got into it, and just you guys were pushing the envelope. You and and then you started going to Hawaii, and Strawley went to Hawaii, and Buckwheat went to Hawaii. So, and traveling around a little bit.
Well, you used to tell us all these super cool stories about
your
travels,
yeah,
and it really like sparked our interest.
I was fortunate in '75. My sister and her then husband moved to. He was in the Navy and he was stationed in Coronado in San Diego, so I had a place to stay. So I would go there, and I was very fortunate. The people at Sunshine House linked me up with the GNS people right there at Tourmaline.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would get a ride over to PB and just surf there, or they would give me rides to other places, which were nice. And they helped me get to like Wind and Sea and places that local people would get their ass kicked. So I was very fortunate.
And speaking of travels, you did a stint in Central America as well, right?
Yeah, in '76, we were the only gringos there at
La Libertad?
Libertad at Punta Roca. Yeah. And I mean, the only people there are the people that still run the restaurant there.
The Rotherhams?
Yeah.
Bob Rotheram?
Bob was there. Bob rode this board that was so heavy, it was unbelievable. But he had the point so wired. He had it more wired than anybody. And the guy I was traveling with knew the guy who owned that big round house there on the point.
Yeah.
So we stayed right there.
No way. In that house?
In that house.
It's abandoned now.
You're kidding me.
No, I go there every year now.
I don't know if he's passed away or not.
I don't know, but it's like it's a wasteland along there now.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, you have to go from the restaurant to the roundhouse, and I'll think of the guy's name in a minute, but you'd have to walk the graveyard, and that is like... That's not a good place to be, especially now. I hear like the gang situation is real bad. But back then in '76, they had just filmed Big Wednesday there.
Yep.
That winter, Greeno was there, and Lopez, and all the hot shots from that, and PT, and all the people that were the extras, and Kanga Carnes, and all the extras from that movie were filming there to make it look like Malibu. Wave is so much. I mean, no offense to, I love Malibu, but it ain't no Malibu.
But man, the people that watch that movie,
they don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah,
right.
That movie's going to be on Turner Classic Movies this week. Can you believe that?
That's amazing.
I think it's their 50th anniversary or some bullshit.
Big Wednesday, man. They still do like Big Wednesday screenings all the time in California.
It's fun.
It's and PT shows up every time. He's always there.
He's a trip.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I used to work with him on the TV gigs.
Oh yeah, doing the commentary.
Yeah, for the commentary.
Yeah,
and so we keep in touch.
He lives in Huntington.
He lives in Huntington. Yeah, and he's very involved in all the walks of fame, inductions, and he's always around. But he has a consulting company. That's what he does for his day job.
God, that's horrible. I can't think of the guy's name. I will.
From El Salvador?
Yeah, because he was an Potter. He was an art teacher at, I want to say, Cal State Fullerton or someplace like that. He had a girlfriend with him. I don't think it was his wife, but she was Japanese, and she could write. She had the wildest style. That point, you have to get your line right, and she just knew, like, she wasn't good, but she had it wired. And the same with Bob. I mean, he really ripped the place.
Yeah, he kind of pioneered it, I think.
I kind of had the wrong equipment. I came with more of a gunny board where I needed more just a 3-fin there would be insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have loved to have good equipment. But Dave and I were there for almost a month, I guess, at Punta Roca. And then he had land down, Salvador goes this way.
Yeah, east to west.
Yeah, so it was more east. So I guess it's where Punta Mango, they call it now. Yeah. But back then, there was nothing. which was great. I mean, there's point after point after point, and we were there for, golly, about 6 weeks, and we had a few swells, but nothing like what we were getting at La Libertad.
Yeah.
So we packed up, and it was more difficult there. There was one family there that helped us with food and whatnot, but I mean, it was very desolate there, and that part, and especially in '76. I mean, like I said, we saw, there were some Australians there traveling around, but generally speaking, there were no gringos. On the weekends, people would come from the capital and ride the bus down, and the point would get from like 4 of us to like 9 of us.
Wow.
And it was
9 people at Punta Roca, man.
And the thing was, then the lineup was a true lineup. You stayed in line.
Yeah.
You didn't paddle around anybody, and it was the gentleman's kind of agreement, except weekends, because the guys from town, they were more aggressive. But Monday comes soon, you know.
Yeah, man, and it's Surf City.
Yeah, it's
you
crazy.
Know,
I mean,
the
I
government
saw
actually
seeing
promotes
contests there and stuff.
Yeah, the WSL has an event there,
it's
so
crazy.
It's, and you know,
but we were there
totally
before all that crap. So.
Oh, you go to Sunzal, which is a
I know
spot. That's like where all the surf schools take. their
well, it's kind of a more gentle wave, you know.
Mellow, soft, right, with a big channel.
Yeah,
so you
see easy peasy
30
lemon
people in
squeezy.
soft tops out there.
Yeah,
man.
wow.
Totally different.
See,
scene.
that's a different thing than I can remember.
Still beautiful country, wonderful people. Love going there every year with our friends, Bodyboard Holidays crew guy in the UK.
If you
but
see Bob, tell him that Dave Hartman and Jack said hello.
Yeah, if I meet him, I've never met
him. Oh, you've never met him?
Well, we just
you got to hit the restaurant.
Town.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we stay in a town a little further west.
I can't believe my little pagoda around the house is shot.
Yeah, I didn't surf that spot this year, but last year I did, and it's like you walk out on the cobblestones.
It's
after
still
the point.
there.
It's there, but there's just nothing.
What it is, it was like a pagoda, and all the downstairs was open with pillars, and it had like wooden blinds that you could pull down to enclose it, and then his bedroom was up a staircase and at the top of the pagoda.
What a spot, man.
Yeah.
It's like being on the point at Rincon.
Definitely. It was sick.
85-degree water.
It was sick. It took me, this is going to sound weird, but I'm goofy, so goofy-footed. So it took me a good couple of days to really start to get it wired. Because I would get tubed every time and get dusted. You know, I'd pull in, I'd get like too low, but it looked like the right place to be. So after a while, I learned to like power through change my line completely, because I watch Dave Hartman, who's world class, and watch Bob surf it, and it got easier. And then one day we were surfing in front of the hotel. I think it's called Conchalia at that time, and there was something going on the beach, and there was some police or military there, and they were firing, and the bullets were coming across the ocean. Beep 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 beep, beep beep beep. Scared me pissless.
Yeah. Well, there's still an element of that. When we were there about 3 years ago, Vicky and I went to Punta Roca one day, and there's a line of soldiers marching through the woods right there.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were looking for. They all had automatic weapons.
That's the way this was.
We were like,
crazy.
Don't make them
let's
angry.
Don't rock the boat here.
So let's bring it back to the BB Bombers days,
Yeah.
and specifically the buckwheat craze.
Oh my
okay.
God.
So let me just point out, you can watch my interview with my friend Buckwheat. It's in an earlier Reale Deal Show, but Buckwheat is one of my oldest friends. I've known him again since 1980, as long as I've known you. And Buckwheat, I went to Hawaii with him. We spent a winter on the North Shore.
Buckwheat's Taxi.
And and he's just this crazy, wild, boisterous dude, big guy.
He's boisterous.
Really charging bodyboarder. He and I started bodyboarding together and pushed each other, and he became part of the team as well. And now this all coincided with TV show, you've heard it, called Saturday Night Live. And there was one of the cast members was Eddie Murphy, who played
buckwheat.
The buckwheat character from our gang,
Little Rascals.
But a completely caricature version of buckwheat.
He was the grown-up buckwheat, and he'd have this big fright wig, and everything was Otay.
Otay.
Yeah,
like he couldn't speak properly because
he had
the buckwheat on the show as a kid didn't speak too well.
Yeah,
right?
So but he continued his little boy voice,
Eddie Murphy we're talking about.
Yeah.
So our friend Mark Buckwheat Thomas, everyone called him Buckwheat because he had the wild hair.
Yeah, he looked like that.
And so he, rather than going, I don't want to be called Buckwheat, he embraced it.
Yeah.
And he turned it into a thing with bombers that became a marketing juggernaut. Talk about that.
Wow.
Where do you even begin, right?
I don't know. Okay, so Eddie Murphy is doing this thing on TV, and it's a hit. It's hilarious, but it's kind of racially
charged.
We couldn't do it now. It's just
no way you couldn't do it.
Too much tension between the races. But we made a shirt that said "Buckwheat Surf Team." Buckwheat say waves Otay, and it had a picture of Buckwheat from our gang going like this.
And you did the artwork, right?
I did part of the artwork, but Scott, what's his last name? He's passed now. But this fellow, Scott, did the finish art. I was good with coming up with like ideas, and like I knew the way I wanted the lettering and stuff, and what it was going to be. But Scott Harrington did the finish artwork, and BT did the printing for us, and BT's passed now too. But we put them in the shop, and kids went nuts on them. We couldn't keep them in. We were just banging them out. And
if only the internet existed back then.
Oh my God, I could have been a millionaire.
Wow.
For a little bit, but anyway. We came out with other like designs and stuff, probably about 7 different designs.
Yeah.
And one of my reps, Mark Allison, who repped, I believe, Town and Country.
South Carolina guy.
Yeah, South Carolina guy, great guy. He said these would go great in South Carolina. I bet they would.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, let's not go there.
The South.
Yeah. So I said, okay. Let's try to sell them other places, see if they'll go. Well, they went nuts. And I was only making like $1.50 a shirt, but I mean, we were doing grosses of shirts all over the place. And so I got other reps, some in California,
And keep in mind, I remember we did a radio ad.
Oh my God.
A guy that worked at the shop named Brendan Hanley who could do a great imitation of Eddie Murphy.
He did a perfect one, and you were doing Pee Wee Herman.
I was doing Pee Wee Herman in the same ad.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we did these voices for a Bombers ad.
Yeah.
And it just fueled
the fire. Yeah, it was going nuts. So a couple months into this, I mean, I'm going, where is this thing going to go? One of the guys in another one of the shops, Salty from Endless Summer, calls me and said, have you seen GQ? I don't read GQ. I read Surfer. I might look at bodyboarding on occasion, but I don't read GQ. And so he brings in me a GQ, and there's Mark Harmon wearing one of my BB Bomber buckwheat shirt in GQ.
GQ, a huge national magazine. Mark Harmon, a famous TV guy. He's in a bunch of shows.
He's wearing a buckwheat shirt.
No way.
Yeah, so I'm stoked out of my mind. So we've got a few people selling. There's 1 or 2 shops in LA. I think I had 1 or 2 surf shops in like your area, San Clemente and southern, like North County, and then down in San Diego, and then I had some up in Santa Cruz too, but it was short-lived.
Early 80s this was.
This is like 83, 84, like in there. Yeah, before I got married and stuff. So.
And then what happened with the buckwheat thing? Did it just run its course, or did you get a cease and desist?
I got a guy call me and he says, Buckwheat was my dad. I owned the rights, kind of like the way athletes now have name and likeness and image.
Yes.
He said, I own the rights to my dad. So I worked out a deal with him, so I was going to pay him a certain amount per shirt, which I was paying him, and his name was Billy Thomas also. And no relation to Mark.
How
but
crazy.
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
Buckwheat's real name was Billy Thomas, and Mark's name is Thomas too.
Yeah,
which
Mark
is,
Thomas, our friend Buckwheat,
the
bodyboarder Buckwheat.
Yeah.
And the actual Buckwheat was Billy
have
Thomas.
The same name. Well, Billy had passed away, but his son got some money from us, and it was significant. I mean, maybe a couple $1,000. I mean, total. Well, meanwhile, a company in Florida decided they liked buckwheat too, and they started pirating my shirts. And I mean, they were a big corporation, and they were pumping out buckwheat shirts as fast as they can make them. And they basically diluted the market to the point where my people thought they were my shirts because they looked just like mine.
Oh, man.
They were stealing from me. So eventually I got a cease and desist against them, but I couldn't win a judgment for money because they declared bankruptcy. So wouldn't pay me money that they owed me because they owed me the profit from each shirt that they had sold. But that's life in the fast lane.
Wow.
But I learned my lesson.
Well,
you can't trust anybody.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, what lesson can you learn? Somebody decides to pirate something, you can only try to get lawyers on them.
Yeah, and then the lawyers
then they just claim
bankruptcy. The lawyers were the ones making the money.
Well, yeah, there's those situations that you went through are a dime a dozen, I would imagine, especially in the apparel business or any business.
But it was fun. We learned a lot.
And it was an amazing time period, and our friend Mark Buckwheat Thomas got a little bit of low-grade fame out of the whole thing. Yeah. And he still, to this day, calls himself Buckwheat.
He is Buckwheat.
Yes, Buckwheat. I still call him Buckwheat.
M-O-T.
And he's just an awesome guy. So
well, he's something, you know. I like to think I had a little influence on him with his spiritual, rebirth. Because I went through my own little Jesus revolution, which was cool for me. I mean, it's made a difference in my life. Hopefully,
was there something that sent you in that direction?
Yeah, a lot of things. But in 1978, my brother-in-law, who was my age, the one who was stationed in Coronado at that time, was out of the Navy. He got killed in an automobile accident. So it made me examine life and death and where I stood and what eternity is all about and your soul and stuff like that. But I kind of ran away with that and when I went to Hawaii, I ran into a guy named Tom Hudson. I don't know if you know Tom, but he's a Gulf Coast surfer, and he was into the Jesus revolution, and he kind of took me to church with him and going, "This ain't for me, man." But the more, when I came back and started Bombers, I guess by the second or third year, I got invited to church at a Baptist church and made a decision to make Jesus my Lord, basically, and it changed my life. I met my wife at church, and we've been semi-happily married for almost
marriage is perfect, man.
For almost 40 years. She's pretty perfect. Just ask her.
Yeah.
She'll tell you. No, she's
I got to use that quote. I haven't heard that one for a while.
But she's been, helped me through all my ups and downs and turnarounds.
Which let's talk about your physical situation.
And
what happened?
I don't want to talk about that yet. Let's talk about the demise of Bombers.
Yes, so that's the next step in the Bombers saga, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it was a saga. It was 13 years.
Okay, you had the shop for 13 years.
Mike and I split ways. Mike just was shaping surfboards, and that's what he loved. He didn't really like the retail end of it that much. I mean, he put up with it, but he was like a tiger in a cage. He was just pacing back and forth. He wanted out of that little shop.
Yeah.
And he wanted at least to look at the waves or all the time or be in the shaping room.
Sure.
And he was a very skilled shaper. So he still shapes to this day as far as I know. But
is he still in this area?
Yep. And he's going to be inducted into the Legends this next time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, as we got into the 90s, things began to change in the market, and we were very fortunate. We one of two shops that had Billabong in town.
Yep.
We killed it with it. We were still doing good, but some of the bigger companies went public. And when they went public, they decided that they needed to have bigger numbers, better numbers, and to make their stock go up. So they started selling to major department stores. So what you could buy in my store, you could buy in every Heck Company, every Mays, every major department store, you name it, Macy's, all the major department stores had your big name surfwear. And there was no difference between what you could get in my store and what you could get in Heck Company, except Heck Company got in bulk. They were off price by July. I was just going into my season in July.
And they're selling it at dirt cheap.
In the same way, unfortunately, with bodyboards. Bodyboards were exclusive to surf shops for years and years and years. All of a sudden, they're in Rose's, they're in Kmart, they're in Walmart.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you compete with Walmart? You just can't. You just have to go. So we went quality instead of quantity, instead of like this board is all flexy, nasty, spongy. Look, this one's got a slick bottom. This has got like the edges have your red edge. This is how this one. And so it was up to us to outsell, and it worked to a point. But also because the market was so saturated, it wasn't cool to look like a surfer anymore. You had to look like a volleyball player. The volley was really huge, like side out and red sand. And we tried a little bit, but that just wasn't us. We were surfers, and we wanted to look like a surfer. I still look like a freaking surfer, even though I'm a crippled mess. Anyway, it put a lot of pressure on a lot of different stores. Plus, a lot of the stores were in malls.
Yeah.
Sunshine House, Sundancer, a lot of the players in Maryland were everywhere. I mean, you could go in Gaithersburg Mall or even in Hagerstown, and there was a Pac Sun or a Sunshine House. I mean, 200 miles inland, and you could buy the same stuff there as what we had here. So we weren't exclusive anymore.
Yep.
And people, although bomber stuff was still doing well, it wasn't enough to sustain myself and two kids.
Yep.
And I just had to face facts. You know, it was time to grow up and get out of the business, or else go big. You know, go big or go home. You know.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the money to go big, so.
Well, that was a risky proposition at the time because, like you just said, there were so many shops, expanding into mass market.
I mean, there were two shops right there on our block, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
And the one, thank goodness Lee's still there. I mean, Malibu's. I don't have any ill feelings toward him, but it was time for me to leave.
Yeah, and so this is early 90s.
This is 90. Let's see, my son was born in 91, so yeah, it would be 92.
And you went back to teaching,
93. Right? I started, it was really weird. When the shop dissolved, I started working for Rite Aid Corporation, and I was a manager there. And I did that for about almost 2 years, and it was tough. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was retail, but not the way I wanted. High pressure,
long hours.
Long hours, not that much pressure. The store did well, but it wasn't my cup of tea. And so Gail, fortunately for me, Gail's real estate business was doing very well. And she goes, well, besides doing the surf shop, what did you enjoy? I said, I really enjoy teaching. She goes, well, go back and teach school. Well, my credentials had run out at that point, so I needed to go back to school. By going back to school, I was working on my master's degree.
Yep.
They would not hire me with a master's degree when they could hire a kid right out of school and pay him $20,000. When if I had my master's degree, they'd have to pay me $40,000.
Oh, wow.
So that didn't exactly work out. But my pastor told me, they said, we liked you, what you were doing in your school, but I couldn't get. It was kind of catch-22. I couldn't teach without a certificate, but I couldn't get my certificate without the master's degree.
Oh, man. So
my pastor was telling me about a school that he went to in Delaware. So I went there, I interviewed, they liked me, I liked them, and I finished my career there. and had a great time.
Yeah.
Had a lot of good kids, a lot of good parents, and that was Epworth Christian School. Had a blast there. Didn't make a whole lot of money, but
you enjoyed what you did.
I enjoyed it. The kids were cool.
Yeah.
And I had a blast.
Yeah, and now you're working at Castle in the Sands.
Well, when I was teaching school up there in the summertime, just to make ends meet, I worked at the Castle in the Sand Hotel, the same family that Dale Shaw from Sundancer. So I've been kind of part of that family
for a
full circle, yeah. I've been there 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah, hard to believe.
Gnarly.
Yeah, and
I can't believe that.
Great people. I love them, and I love the people I work with. Bob Barillo and all the managers and stuff they treat me like gold.
And you're 30 feet from the beach.
Yeah, how about it?
Which is back where you want to be.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I'm right there. I get to look at the water the whole day long.
Air.
Yeah, it's great.
So let's touch on, as we kind of let's bring it all back in here and touch on the legacy of bombers. A lot of us, my age group, as I pointed out, I'm 59 years old right now as we record this in April of 2023.
And I'm 73. How about that crap?
You're 73. So we're still kicking. We still love surfing. It's our lives.
Yeah.
It's not just a passion, but it's who we are, right? It defines us.
Exactly.
It defines me. It defines you.
That's exactly what I say. I'm very privileged to be the man who does the introductions and prayers at the Surfers Healing there. And that's what I always say.
Yes.
We're going to give your child part of ourselves, because surfing isn't what we do, it's who we are.
It's who we are.
It's the aloha.
And
it's the ha.
What I'm getting at with the legacy is you instilled that on so many young surfers of my era in the early 80s. When I moved here in 1980, I had a lot of friends around my age, give or take a few years, and we were sort of shop groms. We hung around your shop, and you would impart that stoke onto us.
That was part of it. Sometimes I have to shoo you away, but most of the...
Hold on. You would ask us to go get you a cheesesteak and fries at Anthony's. That's how you'd shoo us away.
Or I'd send you up to Alaska Stand on Main Street, get me a burger.
That's right. So,
but sometimes I had to get you away so I could talk to the parents of the next kid and whatnot.
Yeah, because we were just hanging out all day.
It was fun, and we were doing our big gum, what was that, the Big League
Chew competition. We would go next door. There was a pharmacy, Bailey's Pharmacy.
Not there anymore.
We'd buy 2 or 3 bags of Big League Chew and see who could blow the biggest bubble. And I had a technique. I would put my hands up like
you were
this.
The winner.
I have a photo of it with Matt Whaley standing next to me. And my hands like this in case it exploded so it wouldn't go all over your face.
Yeah.
But I have a snapshot somewhere buried.
Barbara Bunting, is that who?
Barbara Bunting used to work there.
Yeah.
I actually had a crush on her.
Oh, she was cute.
I took her out on a date once. But that's a whole nother story. Barbara lives in.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, she's great. We still keep in touch on Facebook.
Really?
She's married. She lived in L.A. for a long time and then moved back. And I think she now moved back to L.A. I think. Anyway, we're getting into personal history.
L.A.
that no
is
one's
a lot different than Merlin.
Very different.
Merlin.
She worked for the Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, good on her.
So she was in the film industry there and met her husband, I think, through that. But in any case, it's so cool to see a lot of the guys that came through your Stoke program still out there surfing, or they love to reminisce about the Bombers days. There's so many fans.
I'd like to write a book.
Brand.
I mean,
you could.
I mean, I would definitely get you involved, or you'd be co-author or whatever.
Yes.
But a lot of the credit has to go to my wife, because coming in, not being a surfer, not being part of the culture, she had an enlightening view of our state of being. And she's the one who started the surf camps and that kind of stuff, because she would hear the boys kibitzing about, this kid dropped in on me, he's a kook, I'm tired of. Well, she goes, how do they know how to act in the water unless you teach them?
Yes.
And that was the whole start of the bodyboard camp, which you're carrying on, which I'm very stoked about.
Yes, we are starting a camp in San Clemente. And that all goes back to the Bombers surf camp,
It was
which
the
had
best.
the bodyboarding thing.
And we'd have surfing too, but eventually it got so huge with bodyboarding, we had to separate the surfing from the bodyboarding.
Yes.
And thank you so much for coming back every year and being part of it. It was, it was great. You know? And then we'd have the whole crew like there, and it was just a hoot.
Well, the memories will last a lifetime. That's a cliche, but it's
true.
very true. I mean, that was the best times of our lives.
Me too. I mean,
you know?
it's people might say, hey, you live in the past, but it's a damn good past to live in. Isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You want to just keep those memories alive.
And they are alive, you know.
And they are. And all the people that, you know, came through those doors.
Oh, man. You think about Rob Tinnis, Doug Brown, and Marie.
I'm Facebook friends with all of those people.
Yeah, man.
And I love seeing what they're all doing. Some are spread around the country, even the world.
Are still like, but look at Art Baltrowski in Coolangatta being the Apple genius for Queensland.
Yes, I know.
I said, you weren't even a genius on 8th Street. What the
How funny.
flip?
I got to tell you, though, Art, I would love to interview him about his Suburban that he used to drive
Oh my
around
gosh,
town.
I have a picture of that on my Facebook.
So Art, just to quickly touch on, he was one of the guys that came through the Bombers program.
He was a bodyboarder early on. And
he was a good surfer. He would do bodyboarding as well.
Good waterman.
And he had this Suburban, a big Suburban. It was decked out looking like a Devo mobile. He's really into Devo, the band.
Yeah, he had checkers on
the sides, and he hooked up the door handle to the batteries, and he could push a button, so he would pull over to pick up hitchhikers. So bad. And there'd be 6 of us in the car watching. If we had cell phones back then, my God, it would have gone viral.
Oh, definitely.
And he would pull over like a block ahead to make them run, to get the ride. And they'd run and run because they're like, oh, somebody's going to give me a ride. I'm hitchhiking. They'd grab the door handle and push the button. They'd go like that.
Didn't you have like on the windshield wipers too? Like you could spray people.
He'd turn the squirter so it pointed towards the side of the road. So if he pulled up next to a car at a stoplight, he would push the button. It would squirt in their driver window, and they'd be like, "Where's this coming from?" They'd be looking up to see if their roof was leaking.
Hilarious.
Or people on bikes on the side of the road. He'd squirt them with this tiny stream.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was a prankster, but he's now look at him. He's like you said, he lives in Coolangatta now.
I think he works at Palm Beach, like right up the road there. So he's the king of Queensland now.
Yeah, so they've
surfing Superbank all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Getting 2 rides a day, but loving it.
And his kids are all surfing now.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, so it's it's just again continuing the stoke.
I'd love to be able to go over and visit that place.
Yes, we went and visited him. maybe 10 years ago.
Really? Was he living in Coolangatta?
Yeah, they were living there. They had just had their one daughter at that point. Now they have 3 kids, but. Goldie, it was Margot was the kid he had at that point, his oldest daughter, and
then they have a little boy now.
They have a little boy, Marty.
Yeah. Oh yeah, named after his pops.
And his second daughter, Goldie, named after his grandmother.
Yeah, I remember Goldie was at my wedding actually.
Yeah.
So that was another kick when having everybody at the wedding. You guys were there. Yeah,
right on,
it was
man.
good.
So so many good memories, great times, and again, thank you so much for.
Oh, are you kidding?
Man, fostering all of that.
You guys made it. It's like you call me the king of Stoke, but it was the aloha, the spirit of the whole thing. The love. So
that young kid that rode a 2x4 on metal wheels way back in Hagerstown
in 1961
is now here in Ocean City and still keeping the communications going with all those people. In fact, you're still involved with the surf community here. Like you said, you're kind of the guy who does the
I love the Surfers Healing.
The Surfers Healing thing. You do the
Israel Paskowitz has been a friend over the last 10 years, maybe longer than that. And then Kalani Kanafumi from the Big Island. And then we've had
Kahalia Umi,
yeah.
Yep, bodyboarder guy.
He's a great guy.
He is.
And he brings his son here.
Yes. Teva?
Yeah, Teva.
I can't remember if it's Teva.
And then we've had great surfers over the years, everybody from Jay Riddle,
Yeah.
who was the old Malibu guy. I mean, and then a bunch of young bucks that are, and the aloha just flows at that event.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And
Well, you showed me your magazine and book collection. Jack has this enormous collection, like every surfer and surfing magazine.
I don't have surfing, but I have every surfer
and Surfer's Journal.
I have every surfer's journal, but that started. Pez came to our shop, and he and Debbie like introduced me to that whole concept. He says, I want to make a magazine like National Geographic that everybody will love, good pictures, good articles, and it's the best, you know.
It never leaves your blood, man. The salt water.
Unfortunately, ask my wife. She thinks I'm crazy.
The salt water will always course through the veins.
I'd still like to get somebody to shape me a nice balsa or wood like gun.
Mike Heyman.
Yeah. If I could get the wood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, they're making boards out of all kinds of different kinds of wood now too.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, any last words before we wrap this up, man? We covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, too much maybe. You have to
Never
edit
too
it.
much. We'll see.
I think bodyboarding has found its niche. It's great. I think, you know, getting more people stoked and into the water is where it's at, you know, and just get tubed. There'd be a whole lot less violence and shooting and everything. Just get kids in the water and get stoked. And, you know,
saltwater therapy, man.
Yeah, it's the best.
I agree.
So
100%. Well, that's
a wrap.
Amazing way to finish it up. Jack, thank you, man.
Are you kidding?
I so much appreciate everything you've done for me. And look at me now. I'm a retailer now. And I'm doing a bodyboard camp.
How about that? Get stoked on your own boards. Like, what's the name of your board?
The Reale Deal.
No, your boards.
Oh, Tribe.
Yeah.
Join the tribe.
I'm the old tribe.
That's okay. You're the tribal chief, man.
Well, that would be. What are the tribal elders?
I love it, man. I'm becoming a tribal elder too.
Yeah. You got as much wrinkles as me now.
Oh yeah, more probably. I've been in the sun.
But you've been in Tavarua.
Yes,
that'll
was
help
the last
you.
trip.
Yeah,
that's true.
Nice.
So thank you to Jack Crosby for his time, man. It's just been a pleasure catching up and talking story with you again.
Yeah.
And folks, we're glad you joined us on the Reale Deal
Jamie
Show.
Right there.
Yep, Jack's son. I'm going to say hi after we wrap. But if you watch on YouTube, please give us the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, throw down some comments. We'll throw them Jack's way and see if he has a response for him.
I'll respond to you.
Yeah, and
I'd be stoked.
Yeah, for sure. He would love to talk. He loves to talk about anything related to riding waves. So.
Yeah, and surfing and just the aloha.
Yep.
I'm into like the Hawaiian spirit. I love the Hawaiian culture.
We all do. My daughter lives there now, so of course.
I wish I lived there.
That's where I got married, and we all both have that
How's Sage
connection.
doing? Okay.
She's doing great.
Is she loving it?
We'll talk about that after. Nobody else wants to hear that. So, folks, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and as always, we'll see you in the surf.
There you go. We're done. That's a wrap.
Sorry.
Come on.